Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Pull to Open, the ongoing quest to watch all of Doctor Who in random order. And we're on a special side quest this week to look at regeneration episodes. My name is Chris Taylor.
And my name is Pete Pachal, and welcome, to this short trip of Pull to Open, where we are opening the rankings. I don't know what we're doing. I was trying to do something with the title there. We're looking at regeneration, guys.
Yeah.
Regeneration is a thing that happens with regular occurrence here on the show. It marks the beginning of a new era, the end of an old one, passing of the torch. It's inherently
we've been to a few random regenerate. We've been there randomly, but now we want to take a look post Power of the Doctor at all of the regenerations.
Yeah, Power of the Doctor had a lot of regeneration going on. But the final scene was a huge one, a big surprise to some. But it was kind of a surprise to a lot, actually. And it was a lot of stuff leading up to that. And we got to thinking, how does it really compare to the other regeneration stories, and what marks a regeneration story? Like, what makes it a good regeneration story when you do one? Like, there's some inherent drama attached to it with the whole beginning ending of an era. But some episodes have obviously done it better than others. So, like, what are the essential elements that make it good, and then how do they rank?
Yeah, some have done it more embarrassingly than others, and the Power of the Doctor. I mean, I think we may give this side trip the provocative title of "Is Power of the Doctor the best regeneration ever?" Because that's something I've been considering since watching it. You know how regenerations linger in your head as a Who fan long after they're seen on the screen for the first time, because we have to. There's a lot we have to headcanon, especially in this case. We will get to that.
A lot of what makes it good, to your point, is that, like, what does it bring out of you as a fan? Both just the sort of feeling, but also, like, what's it opening up in terms of possibilities? And if you think all the way back to the very first one, like, that was just by the nature of doing it, it opened the show up to a huge amount of possibilities, which of course we've seen delivered on for the past 60 years, roughly.
Yeah, and you definitely have to set all these in the historical context, right? Of where we were in the show, what they did for the show, how the 10th planet to Power of the Daleks was perhaps the biggest cliffhanger in the early show's history, because the Doctor changed face? How did that happen? What's going on? Right, so we got to be good historians here. But also, we're going to look. We're not just going to rank these arbitrarily. We're going to look at some specific criteria. How epic was the story itself, and the reason within the story for the regeneration, right? How much does it tie into the story? The Doctor's final words, right? Or I guess the companion with the Doctor's final words that sometimes linger in some cases.
Yeah, I think the dialogue,
the dialogue around the regeneration. We've talked before on the show about the Brigadier being a regeneration hipster, when he says, "Here we go again," having not seen a regeneration before. And then the coolness of the actual regeneration, so like the special effects,
but not just the special effects. Like, how is it handled? In because obviously, if you just did special effects, none of the classic series ones would work. But if you we'll get to it, but there are obviously some variations on just simply having one actor leave the space and another one go in the same clothes. The things they played off to do that, and also you're subverting your expectations perhaps occasionally. I think I got to give points for.
Which Power of the Doctor 100% attempted to. I don't know if it did it for all of the hardcore fans, but certainly for the casuals, subverted expectations. And one final criteria, because this has kind of always bugged me, is how much is the TARDIS connected to the regeneration, and in many cases, how much is the TARDIS destroyed by the regeneration? Because as we know, the Doctor is a terrible, terrible TARDIS owner. He flies with the handbrake on. He's like you wouldn't insure the Doctor for TARDIS ownership, on this dodgy old Type 40, or that's just going to cost you so much. But so many of these regenerations affect the TARDIS or involve the TARDIS in one way or another. So we're going to talk through that.
See, this is how the Doctor gets his money, though. Like how he, because like he's a time traveler. He just goes back in time and takes out insurance policies on things that he knows are going to go kablooey, including his own TARDIS. That's a pretty good source of income.
Maybe this is why the Doctor is being pursued by so many bad guys over the course of the show. They're actually insurance claims adjusters. They really need to talk to the Doctor about these mysterious TARDIS burnings that keep happening.
RTD, feel free to steal that joke. Okay. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. And I'll just say on that final score, this is one of the reasons why I love the Power of the Doctor so much, is that Jodie very sensibly parks the TARDIS on a cliff, stands outside, does a very pretty rainbow display, and, doesn't risk destroying the TARDIS. So thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, it's actually, I believe, the first New Who regeneration to not happen within the TARDIS.
Well, let's actually a good segue to let's just go through all of them, just remind ourselves and remind listeners. If you're not a casual fan, you can reel off the names of the regeneration episodes, but if you are, you probably don't. So let's just go through them. There's Hartnell to Troughton, which was in the 10th planet.
And then there's Troughton to Pertwee, which was the war game.
Pertwee to Baker, Planet of the Spiders.
Tom Baker to Peter Davison in Logopolis.
Davison to Baker again, Colin in Caves of Androzani.
And then not Colin Baker, but Sylvester McCoy in a wig to actual Sylvester McCoy in Time and the Ronnie.
Yes, McCoy to McCoy. And then McCoy to McGann in the Doctor Who movie.
And then McGann to the War Doctor, a number of years probably too late, but in the Night of the Doctor.
Yeah, first retroactive regeneration.
Right.
Second retroactive regeneration, the War Doctor to Christopher Eccleston-ish in The Day of the Doctor.
And then Eccleston to Tennant, the first time, in The Parting of the Ways.
Yep. Tennant to Smith in The End of Time.
Smith to Capaldi in Time of the Doctor.
Capaldi to Whittaker in Twice Upon a Time, and also ish the first regeneration.
And we've already said Power of the Doctor, which of course was Whittaker to Tennant again as the first Doctor.
What? And we will soon be adding another one to this list, whichever of the specials Tennant regenerates into Ncuti Gatwa in.
Right. Yeah.
Well, when I say soon, I mean a year's time.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, right?
We've got so long to wait. This is why we got to do these side quests. So Pete, we were talking a little bit before the show. I think we should just get it right out there. We were saying, we could go through these, we could rank them in order. But I'm kind of most curious to hear what both of our favorites and least favorites are to start with. Actually, let's do it without the Power of the Doctor first. Favorite, least favorite. Yeah. And then we can maybe talk briefly about Power of the Doctor and how that changed our opinions. So how about you go first?
Well, I think we can almost call Time and the Ronnie a disqualification.
I'm so glad you said that. Yes.
I don't think it's anyone's favorite for obvious reasons. Colin Baker wasn't there. It's kind of tacked on. The reason for his regeneration is completely mysterious, and it's had to be sort of retconned in various other media just to make an excuse out of it. So it just feels like we'd just be kicking the show where it's down if we just put that way. Like that's dead last. It's dead last. I mean,
it's dead last. I mean, it has to count. It is regeneration, but it is, and I may have mentioned this on the show before. It is the episode and the regeneration that stopped me watching the classic show as a kid.
Yeah,
I was so angry about that.
It's sad, but not in sort of in-show sad where it's epic. It's sad. It's just sad. So
the Doctor hit his head on the console, basically.
I think we don't have to talk about it anymore. Yeah. I mean, I think we just take it out of the rankings. But I mean, in terms of least favorite, I honestly like outside of that one, I'd say kind of the War Games, because you don't get the payoff. You don't see him, the next Doctor, and it's also like this forced regeneration, which a term that came later, obviously, but it is like
Mm.
it just seems so unfair and like they kind of on some level as a kid you almost hate the Time Lords for it because you love the
Yeah.
Doctor and they're making him change, which is kind of a cool thing to do in show. But generally, I did not like it, and I'll top it off with Patrick Troughton at one point makes a noise that
Mm.
it sounds a little like a belch
Mm.
or like just a grunt. And I don't know why they did that and then left it in. It's just like in terms of infamy in
Mm.
Doctor Who moments, like wow. So I've got to go with War Games as my least favorite.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I mean, a lot of people like to hate on the day of the Doctor regeneration because we don't fully get Chris Eccleston.
Mm,
I did see a video that ranked it as the worst. Um, I believe that opinion is incorrect.
agreed.
I think they didn't get the message of wearing a bit thin. Like
Yes.
it wasn't clear to them that the Doctor regenerates because of old age.
Hmm.
Wearing a bit thin, obviously a reference to what William Hartnell says in the 10th Planet. We all know that the Doctor can die of old age, and he does it again in Time of the Doctor. That's his issue. So
Right.
I really like that. I liked that Eccleston sort of half appears at the end, but you don't fully get it. But you know it's him, right?
Yeah,
It's
they
enough.
yeah they
It's
essentially did
enough
his
to
eyes.
satisfy both the lawyers if Eccleston wanted to sue for that, and the fans. So it's good. So
Which I think, yeah, I think they
it's how to do
clear.
regeneration if your
Yeah,
doctor doesn't want to be involved.
yeah,
Which Time of the Rani couldn't do because CGI wasn't a thing.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Anyway, I
Anyway,
so are you saying then that you're just
I
basically War
agree.
Games as well, right?
War Games, it's because it's so slapdash. The production, obviously they were it was a terrible time for Doctor Who. It might have been the end of the show.
Mm,
The drawings that the Time Lords throw up on the screen of like, what
right.
about this guy for a regeneration? Like they're the sketchiest sketches. Like, what are you
Yeah.
even doing, Time Lords? Throwing this? Did you just sort of sketch out this guy's face for 5 seconds? Like, what?
I saw a there's a good video. I'll put it in the show notes if I
Mhm.
remember or I can find it, where someone instead of putting those drawings, recut the
Mm.
scene where they show future doctors,
Ooh,
and he goes like, "That one's too young," and it's Matt Smith, and then
nice.
that one, "Oh, that one's too fat, isn't he?" It's like sorry, let's call it Baker.
Oh, oh, Colin.
I
Oh,
mean,
Colin.
he didn't really let anyway. I shouldn't even
Yeah.
go anywhere there,
But
but it's
hey,
like
hey,
while he
he's
was the
proud.
doctor, yeah,
He's proudly back as a power of the
yeah.
Doctor. So go, Colin.
And there was that whole carrot juice scene, so let's be real. Um, but listen, to flip it now, in terms of most favorite. Now, this is before
Mm,
we've gotten into our ranking, so I'm
mm,
just going to
mm.
say my instinct is to go with Caves of Androzani because that was so epic to me, being a
Hmm.
Davison, starting with Davison, the Davison guy.
Right.
Um, but my sleeper pick, if I could do this at this point, is the Parting of the Ways. Actually, just because
Ooh.
it's the first regeneration in New Who, so it's the first time we're seeing the cool new special effect, and I
Mm,
just feel like it's a good example of like not overdoing it. Like I feel like ever
mm,
since then it's like they've dressed up every regeneration now, and because I think probably they had to sort of do it quickly here because of Eggleston and his wanting to depart, and they had to sort of put it in when they
mm.
originally didn't want to, but it's just like he kind of just I got to regenerate. See you
Yep.
later, and boom, and he's in and he's out, and then Tennant's right there, and boom,
And
you're
they
done.
do it in the middle of a sentence, right? Oh, what was I
Yeah,
saying? Barcelona. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just brilliant. The only regeneration to take place in the middle of dialogue,
right.
which I think is wonderful. It's sort of you kind of want to talk about that, and then the time of the Doctor regeneration, because that's sort of a fake out, right? You're
Right.
expecting you're expecting the big change to happen inside the TARDIS as Matt Smith like drops his bow tie. He's preparing to change, but no, basically he sneezes and he's Peter Capaldi,
Yeah.
and And it's brilliant. It does sort of, that kind of regeneration makes you think, well, like, why are some of these super powerful, and why are some of them just like sneezes? Like, where's the consistency here? What's going on? But I love the way that the show has been unafraid to play around with how regeneration happens right from the start.
Yeah, agreed. I love that one too. Again, subverting the expectations. I think
Mm,
that's right up there.
mm.
Okay, so
Uh,
now let's talk about our criteria here. So the first one we had is the epicness of the story. So
mm.
where do you think? Well, which one of these or which of these do you think are the most epic in terms of story?
Outside of the power of the Doctor, my sleeper pick is actually going to be the Night of the Doctor.
Oh, good
Uh,
pick, actually. Yeah,
yeah, because that was so much, good. That was the fan service we needed for the 50th. So many people
yeah.
didn't know that Paul McGann was coming back. It's like, 5 perfect minutes of Moffat script, like, 5 of the best minutes of script he's ever written. Like, it gets right to the nub
Hmm.
of it, reintroduces the Sisterhood of Khan, suggests that, gives the Doctor a choice for the first time in his
Hmm.
regeneration. And it's a terrible choice. It's no choice at all. Of course, he has to become a soldier. He has to become the War Doctor. He has to become Doctor No More. Um,
Not only
and
that, it automatically makes canon all of his Big Finish companions because he name
yes,
checks them.
he name checks them.
Yeah.
And it also, actually, for me, this has been my headcanon over the years. I realized, like, you've got to sort of explain why the old regenerations were like, I'm glowing for a bit. I've glowed to white, and now I've changed.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the new regenerations are like massive burst of
Yeah.
energy. And I think my headcanon is it was whatever the Sisterhood of Khan put in that elixir to kind of make it for that changed all of the Doctor's regenerations going forward. Right.
Wow. That's
So
a
I sort of
good
feel
chaser to get one of those. It was a regeneration upgrade,
it really
basically.
is. And it does. I mean, I love all of this stuff in Hellbent. I don't particularly like as a story, but I like the idea that, regeneration is man flu, that, you sort of,
Yeah.
of course, a Time Lord regenerating into a woman would be like, nothing, over it. Um, and that's sort of what you see here. Is like the Doctor sort of instantly over it. He knows who he is, what he needs to be. You see that the shot of John Hurt walking away, young John Hurt, as a reflection. I mean, it just brilliant way to handle your limitations.
Mm.
I would say my favorite old series, by the way, is probably Logopolis. We've covered it on the show
Yeah.
before. It's a solid one for me. Love the Watcher so much. It's sort of got that childhood nostalgic pang that Davison was your first Doctor, Baker was my first Doctor. You never forget your first regeneration.
Totally. And honestly, for me, it's kind of even money now between those two. Logopolis, or that,
Mm,
which is my favorite, which is Caves of Androzani in terms of
mm,
the old series. But having done Logopolis for the podcast, like it just brought out so much of the, oh, wow, this is so huge. And
mm,
I have a really hard time deciding, honestly, between
mm,
them now. So I'll probably also go with you. And like Logopolis is just huge in terms of the epicness of the story. You have a new master, you
mm.
have, the whole universe being sort of threatened, kind of
Right,
incredibly within the show's own structure. You're not
right.
just like scoffing at it.
New
Baker, who
companions.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, new companions. It's just so much happening.
Mm,
I think I might have to tip it to Logopolis, even though Caves as a story itself,
yeah.
holy epicness, right? But um,
Uh,
within Doctor Who, I don't know. I feel like Logopolis has this gravity for all those reasons. On top of that, Tom Baker's leaving. Holy cow!
Yeah, and Logopolis is the only one to set up the regeneration in episode one, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah,
the appearance of the Watcher, yeah,
yeah,
and the let us not forget the bell, the cloister bell was
yeah. It
heard for the
introduced
first
that.
time.
It's
Yeah.
huge, so
Mm,
huge.
mm.
Yeah, so many things in this one. Um,
What
and
about
in New Who,
final? Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead. I
I
was
was just
going
gonna
to move us on to final lines, but your last thought.
no, just if it was a New Who one, I would honestly go with and I know the episode isn't super loved, but the end of time,
Mm,
because it's finally the Time Lords are back. And there was again another sort of master conflict. I mean, the chess pieces they set up there, made it really, really huge. I don't know if this. I think maybe it's sort of the story falls down in a couple places, so
Yeah.
it's not as epic as it kind of should have been. But Tenet as the fan favorite, leaving at least for the first time. I mean, it was a big moment, and they had the two-parter for over Christmas and New Year's as well. So I don't know,
Yeah,
that one felt like it had a lot of gravity.
that's pretty epic. That for me falls down because of the regeneration. Um, the regeneration final tour is sort of introduced as a concept.
Yeah, you're
I'm on
right.
the farewell tour. The Doctor becomes the Rolling Stones on another farewell tour around the galaxy of all his friends.
And again, you're making me like Party of the Ways again more, and sort of come
Yeah.
back to that one because it's such a contrast, just in
Mm.
and out. Like I'll just say it. Eccleston takes it like a man. Boom. It just okay. I got to regenerate. Doing it. See you later. And
Yeah.
Tennant just kind of like, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
that
oh,
right
now
there.
we want you to go because you've been on screen way too long here, bro.
Right there, we have the difference between a Northern Doctor and a Southern Doctor. Yeah, Northern Doctor's like, no, job done, regenerated, and the Southern Doctor's, I don't want to go, and I got to see all my friends. But I will say, not to hate on on that particular regeneration, the end of time, because it is many people's favorites. I will give it the award for best final line because. And I wouldn't necessarily have done that pre-Power of the Doctor, but the fact that he says, I don't want to go,
Right.
and then he's the first Doctor to come back as another Doctor, that for me, like, that may be the most epic multi-season arc that the show
Yeah.
has ever done, right?
In hindsight, I guess.
In hindsight. I mean,
Still don't
a
love
lot
it.
of this is retconning, right? Remember,
Yeah,
this is one of the
for
things
sure.
Doctor Who does best is retcon within the show, and I think that the Night of the Doctor is kind of such a perfect example of that. How to squeeze in a whole regeneration you didn't know happened. But yeah, epic final line. I don't want to go. It's hard to top that. I do kind of like. I got to give a special shout out to Capaldi's speech in Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Although I do like
That's very good.
pears. You should eat pears. They're fantastic.
They are a bit messy. He's right about that. Yeah, it's good. It's a great speech. I got to say, I have to go with the actual lines I remember, right? So, because if I don't remember the line, it couldn't have been that great. But I do, again, back to Logopolis, the moment has been prepared for.
Yes.
And that's good. But honestly, in this case, I got to give the edge to the Caves of Androzani because Davison's last line is actually Adric. And it's because he's seen all the visions. And Adric is the last one that comes before the Master.
Yeah.
And he says Adric, like, it's kind of like, it's clearly it was deeply affecting for him how he lost him. And I found that affecting as a fan watching because he was just kind of in so much anguish just by
does the
sort of being
Adric
remembered.
line does the Adric line come after the Master saying no Doctor, you must die, Doctor?
No, right before.
Right before that. Okay,
he sees
the last
Adric
companion.
and he actually says it, Adric, like, and it's like,
I see.
and
I see.
then the
Yes.
Master's face comes in larger than everyone else and tells him he must die. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, and maybe Adric and the Master were in his mind as he regenerated, and that's why he regenerates into a complete ass. There's
also a retcon.
This is my ongoing theory. If you haven't heard on Pluto before, that the Doctor sort of imprints not necessarily the first thing he sees, but the last thing he sees before the last regeneration, which is why he goes Scottish after having seen Amy in the TARDIS. That vision, that was a pretty epic scene where she says, "Raggedy Man, good night."
Yeah, I do. I like that one. And I got to say, Power of the Doctor, I don't know if I don't think I love her final line where it's like, tag, you're it. It implies a bit too much casualness for me about regeneration, that it's just, whatever. Here's the next one. This again, why I sort of, Caves of Androzani was so good. I mean, there's even moments in that episode where he seems unsure if he's going to regenerate.
I kind of like that the Doctor is more And yes, you're right. We should give a nod to the classic series for the notion that maybe the Doctor doesn't regenerate. Right? We've talked about that on the show before.
Yeah.
Um, maybe we've lost some of that certainty, but of course we all know it's going to happen. It's fine. But
Mm.
yeah, the Doctor's got kind of meta, and I kind of like the idea that the Doctor gets more meta with every regeneration. Like he's thinking more existentially. Like, the Capaldi Doctor in Deep Breath starts talking about basically the ship of Theseus thing, but
Mm.
using a broom as a metaphor. Like, am I still the same person? And so there's all this meta stuff. Like, Tennant is like, oh wait, I don't want to get. I'm going to vanish. Matt Smith says, "I'll always remember when the Doctor was me," which
That is a good
is,
line.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
super meta, and starts to introduce this notion that Moffat was really, really hot for, which is like the Doctor does actually change personalities as well, and it is a kind of a death.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Twice Upon a Time. By that point, the Doctor's like, "No, I will not change." And then
Mm.
finally, at the end of that story, is like, "Doctor, I let you go." So again, it's like this personality lets you go and passes on. So it feels like Tag Your It is a natural progression. But I do love the line, "Doctor, whoever you're about to be." I can't help myself. I
Yeah.
love that.
That is
I
that.
love
I
that.
will say that. Yeah. That's true. That part's
And
okay.
of course, it sort of amps up our expectations for Shooty in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, whoever you're going to be. Well, we know who it's going to be, or do we?
I got to say,
Yeah.
of all the ones you said there, I think it was Smith's in the New Who that I like. I'll still give
Mm.
the edge to Davison, but that was good. Always
I
remember when
like
the
that.
Doctor was me.
Smith is the only one who makes a deliberate costume choice, right? Takes his bow
Right.
tie off, so the next Doctor can't have it. I mean, it's kind of a bit of an asshole move, maybe.
No,
No,
I
no,
didn't. It
Mister
didn't come across
Capaldi,
that.
you're not cool enough for this bow tie. Bow ties aren't cool on you. Maybe he should have been wearing
Yeah.
a fez and just sort of thrown it to the floor. No, no fezzes for you, sir.
All right, let's talk about the coolness of the regeneration itself. And
Mm,
again, we're
mm,
not talking purely about special effects. We're talking about just the circumstances around it, how it subverted our
mm.
expectations, possibly. What are your picks here?
Well, obviously, I mean, you cannot not give the nod to the first regeneration because it was the ultimate cliffhanger.
Mm.
There must be. I really hope there were some viewers who looked at the screen in 1966 and said, "What? What? What?" Uh, because of course, then that brings it all around to the unexpectedness of the power of the Doctor, which is why
Mhm.
I am sort of, leaning towards ranking the power of the Doctor as top overall because of that subversion.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold it against you at all. Honestly, it's
Mm.
one of those times where you kind of hate not being a casual fan.
Mm.
I would have loved to have been completely surprised by that.
Yep.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
some people again who are casual fans were, but we all kind of called it. You could, you
Yeah.
could go back to the podcast. We really called it.
I was punching the air, going, "Yes, he said it.
Yeah,
He said the words."
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's fantastic because this is a show that does every regeneration injects something new. Well, the good ones inject something new into Who canon about how regeneration could be done. Right,
Hmm.
War Games didn't quite work, but at least introduced the idea of forced regeneration,
Right.
which again, brings us right up to the power of the Doctor.
Hmm.
A Planet of the Spiders didn't quite work, but had the oh god, what was it? The llama who's sort of guiding the Doctor on
Yeah,
his,
Choji
yeah,
or
but
Kenpo. I
still,
forgot. What they're both. It
yeah,
was kind of two people.
yeah, exactly. The floating CSO guy.
Yeah. But that
Yeah,
sets
that
up
one.
Megapolis in a sort of
Yes,
canon kind of way. So that's a
exactly.
really, really high ranking one here in terms of coolness of the regeneration with the
Mm,
Watcher and them
totally.
sort of merging at the end in this weird cocoon, and then Peter Davison sort of scoots himself up on his elbows.
Yeah.
Um,
You sort of
that was
want
huge.
to. It's interesting that we haven't talked about the Doctor Who movie at all. Maybe for good reason, but that was
Mm,
certainly the most sort of CGI'd regeneration itself in terms of not just light shooting out, but the face warping and changing, and that they're making it look like a Frankenstein situation. Remember the
yeah.
guards watching Frankenstein on TV?
what I'll give that points for isn't so much the regeneration itself, which is kind of, we
Mm.
knew it was coming. Even
Mm.
even if you're a casual like viewer, you knew it was coming.
Mm.
But I do like the subversion of expectations earlier
Mm.
because they start with McGann's narration.
Yeah.
And then it's even before the credits and in the credits, and then he's still narrating. And then the camera sort of pans down and it's Sylvester McCoy. And you're like, oh, right. Like you
Mm.
kind of forgot, even if you're a fan, like, yeah, that's right. He's the doctor still.
And
That
that was the
that was a
moment
good moment.
that was the moment he did become the Doctor for me, because of course I'd stopped watching with Time of the Rani and I picked it
Mhm.
up again with the TV movie because, expectations were so high. And I was like, oh, McCoy looks really good on film. Like I finally had that warm, glowing feeling of this guy is the
Mm.
Doctor.
He was never on film until then, right? Like
Yeah.
they stopped doing film right when he took over.
Yeah, you're like,
So
oh my god, you actually look good in movies. You look good in movies. You should be in movies, sir. And he
hey,
is.
I'll
Yeah.
take it. He's great. For New Who, I got to say though, it's Night of the Doctor. The whole
Mm,
thing
yeah.
in terms of coolness, like
So
wow,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
the unexpectedness of it. Like
yeah,
keeping a regeneration a surprise is such a hard thing.
totally.
To the point where we should mention the show has faked us out several times. We've seen one of them in Lie of the Land,
Hmm.
where
Right.
the Doctor sort of fakes some regeneration energy for a joke. Of
Hmm.
course, there's the big old Doctor regenerates into the Metacrisis Doctor, or throws his regeneration to the Metacrisis Doctor
Yeah.
in the
There's
Tennant era.
Modern. Don't forget
Yeah.
Modern.
Mordrin, yeah, fake regeneration there.
Yeah, for ranking fake regenerations, I think there's one in the comics
Yeah.
where the Eighth Doctor regenerates into Nicholas Briggs, basically,
Oh,
and it's a big thing. And they actually got into trouble over it
oops.
because this was during the Wilderness years, and
Hmm.
people thought the comic in Doctor Who magazine was actually regenerating the Doctor in sort of an unauthorized kind of way. And
Oopsie.
so they got a tiny bit of flack over it, but it was a fake. It was a fake out. And then like it's like a few strips later, like Paul McGann just comes back. He's like, "Oh hey, that was all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fooling you,
Sorry.
fooling y'all."
Yeah, the regeneration as trolling has definitely been a thing. It's
Well, that
totally.
Fly of the Land is the worst, man, in terms of that.
Oh my god, yeah, totally. We've talked about like the scenes in New Who that seem like they're done specifically for the trailer. I mean
Yeah.
that one, yeah, that takes the cake. Sorry,
Hmm.
Stephen Moffat, but ugh. Um. All right,
So
so that's coolness.
so now
Uh.
the link to the TARDIS
Yeah.
or its destruction
Yes.
related
So
to the regeneration.
let's go through which ones are TARDIS linked. The 10th planet, because Troughton says that the TARDIS helped him regenerate,
Hmm. Yeah.
even though that word isn't used yet.
War Games, not really. Planet of the Spiders, not
Mm.
really. Okay, Legopolis,
Hmm.
kind of. And it's
Because
more, you see the effect of it in Castrovalva. So taking that as the sort of continual, like the two parts of it, like with the Zero Room and jettisoning parts of the TARDIS, having it sort of be involved. And there's this whole sequence in there where he's sort of wandering around the TARDIS and using his
yeah.
scarf. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I
Like,
love that.
yeah, that's
Unraveling
all.
the scarf. Yeah.
Yeah, if we can count that, I would hold this one up pretty
Mm.
highly.
As the TARDIS connection. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the TARDIS is the egg that the Doctor hatches out of.
Hmm.
So it's sort of surprising that hasn't really been explored. But it sort of has been explored in New Who in the sense of like the regeneration has occasionally been used as an excuse to burn down the TARDIS set and give us an entirely new one, which definitely makes me wonder if the Doctor isn't running an insurance scam. But let's actually talk in New Who, like who destroys the TARDIS. So or who is most careful with their TARDIS. So Eccleston, top marks,
Yeah,
one careful TARDIS owner.
crashes in a
Uh,
foul state a little bit later, but that's all.
Yeah, but at least the regeneration itself is not like, if
Yeah.
he was a dog, he'd be like, bad boy, go do that outside. Don't do that again. Don't do it in the house. And that's what we see in the end of time, right? Tennant is such an egotistical doctor. Sorry, Ten, but it's true. That he's like, oh, I don't even care. I don't want to go. I'm just going to explode into light that messes my TARDIS up.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna like. And I've just been on this galaxy-wide tour of my companions and friends. Like I could have gone to a cliff edge and done it there. Like maybe maybe
Yeah.
that's something that will be referenced in
As TARDIS,
14-0.
yeah, as TARDIS involvement goes, I think this one kind of takes the cake for
Mm,
New Who. Though Capaldi's to Whitaker is a
mm.
surprising contender.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Amazing that Capaldi was not careful with his TARDIS either.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically get a repeat of Fire in the TARDIS and then the Doctor falling out,
Right.
which is sort of I kind of want to know whose idea was that. Was that Moffat or was that Chibnall? You always kind of
Mm.
wonder with these showrunner straddling
I
episodes.
got to think it's Chibnall.
Yeah,
You're going to let him start where he wants to start.
yeah.
So he's like, he must have said, I want to do this.
There is a beautiful email back and forth between Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat in The Writer's Tale, which is
Mm.
all of RTD's emails around his last specials, where he says to Moffat, "Just let me know where you'd like me to park the Doctor."
Yeah.
Which I just love the idea of the Doctor as a little runaround town car, and it's like I'll give you the keys. Just let me know where you want me to park him.
Right. It's a zip car. That's funny. Yeah. So there we go. So where have we arrived at here in terms of like our consensus? I feel like Legopolis on my end at least is kind of
Mm.
emerging as the favorite in terms of like ranking on all these things.
I've got I mean, we haven't talked much about the power of the Doctor because and how much it changed things. Because I got to see once I saw that, it kind of ticked all the boxes for me.
Yeah.
Story was epic, involved regeneration, and specifically involved regeneration with clothes. Therefore, establishing that the Doctor is supposed to regenerate with the
Mm.
clothes. So this was a deliberate choice not to. Or to change the
Mm.
clothes when Tennant arrives. The final lines, I like Doctor Whoever you are. Tag your it. Maybe that plays better in a British cultural context. I don't know, but I kind of liked it. I mean, sure, if you're regenerating all this
Mm.
time, of course you play tag with your next Doctor. I love that idea.
Mm.
It's playful. It's very Whittaker. The coolness of the regeneration itself, like that, it introduces
Yeah.
the rainbow effect in the power of the Doctor. Oh my goodness. Like, it's perfect for Whittaker. It's perfect for her costume. Like it just, doing it on a cliff edge. Like if you're the Doctor and you're not, you don't have enough money from running your insurance scams on the TARDIS, then you could sell tickets to that regeneration, right?
Yeah,
just
yeah.
off screen.
See, there you go. If you're like, that makes sense. If you're Tenant and you're about to do it, like, you could get a little time and like get
and it,
someone to sell some tickets for you and just, I'll be here at this time. And it could be a couple years in the future and boom, come to the
yeah,
regeneration.
yeah, and that's sort of like it's sort of the epicness of the using the regeneration energy of Time of the Doctor, which of course, like Time of the Doctor, we haven't mentioned it. I kind of want to mark it down because of the quote unquote reset button that
Yeah.
just is an excuse to give you a younger Smith, who's
Right.
actually regeerating.
Yeah. The
Um,
reboot.
Yes, just a quick reboot just brings too many questions into your head about regeneration, right? But
Yeah.
the love from Gallifrey Boys scene where he just kind of explodes, uses regeneration energy as a weapon. Like that episode could almost be called "The Power of the Doctor,"
Yeah. That's fair.
to be used for that. But yeah, doing it as just a rainbow bow of light over a cliff edge, perfect, beautiful. Like it's going to be so hard to top that one for
Yeah. It
shooting,
was
right?
gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous.
Um,
And I think you're right in terms of subverting expectations, even though
mhm,
again, hardcore fans, you kind of it's one on your list of things that are probably going to happen.
mm.
But like for the show itself, like wow, just really, really great. It's probably blows everything else out of the water in that sense.
Yes, blows it out of the water with regeneration energy from Gallifrey.
So just alone on that, I might do it, but I'm not. I'm not feeling the line, and my book, it's probably Legopolis. Even though as much as I would have said at the beginning of this conversation, the Caves of Androzani, but
interesting.
yeah.
I love this great
Legopolis
thing about
ticks all the boxes for me. I mean, it's got epic story. It's got that final line, the moment has been prepared for, and really cool regeneration, and the TARDIS link is huge with the stuff they do with the Zero Room. So on our criteria,
also,
I think it's just got it all.
And also the link of the Watcher piloting the TARDIS during Legopolis, right? So there's that connection. Yeah, I like always will have a soft spot for Legopolis, but I think that the power of the Doctor takes it for me. Maybe it just edges it out because the Doctor is so mindful of not destroying the TARDIS this time. And because it, like, at least, there was a bit of a sort of a companion farewell tour, at least with Yaz and the ice cream, but at least the Doctor has the glowing hand to sort of remind us that this is a process that cannot be stopped. But yeah, I think that the fact that in a stroke, it kind of brought back all the casual fans. It subverted expectations. It changed the clothes so that, we nearly had Ncuti Gatwa like regenerating in Jodie's clothes, and that would have been an issue for certain people. Not a way, like maybe it was a step too far for the show to do that. We've seen a lot of theorizing around the quote unquote bridge Doctor. That Tennant is being, and the fact that Ncuti Gatwa actually wasn't available because of his commitments and movie schedule. So you sort of had to do this. You had to bring someone back for the 60th special instead of saddling the new guy with the pressure of the 60th special. So it ticks boxes, in real life outside the in-show canon, and it ticks all the boxes for me with the in-show canon of like, yes, this is what regeneration should do. It should surprise you. It should be different every time. It should really just blow the top of your head off like it's blowing the top of the Doctor's head off. So, Power of the Doctor, I'm calling it, for me, Power of the Doctor, best regeneration ever.
You make a solid case, and I won't, as much as I might disagree somewhat, I'd still, to everything you said resonates. It's definitely very high on the list for me. But yeah, like as I've already said, all the stuff that's ticked off for Legopolis, I think is mine. So
Indeed.
that's what we're at. Hey, listeners, which one's yours? What is your favorite regeneration, and why? Why was it epic? Was it the lines? Was it just the cool special effects? Let us know. We'll post some stuff on social, reply to one of those, or just let us know on Twitter or Instagram. We're at Pull2Open63 on each of those platforms, and at Pull2Open on TikTok. And yeah, feel free to engage with us wherever, or just tell us, or leave a review for the podcast and tell us that we completely don't know anything about Doctor Who, and should never be allowed to rank anything on the show again because you disagree so vehemently with our choices here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
be sure to leave 5 stars. Be sure to leave 5 stars no matter what you say, because the 5-star reviews really do help the show.
They do. And maybe we'll do a poll on since we brought it down to a split decision here, Legopolis versus the Power of the Doctor. Maybe that's the poll that we'll run on the Twitter account, and you can vote in that. And yeah, please leave us a review, and thanks for joining us on this side quest.
All right,
we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.